you all so much for being here today. As you know, we just finished the special session that Governor Parson called for us to come back and pass what's known as the Federal Reimbursement Allowance, which is essentially the money that we need to fund our state's Medicaid program to the tune of about $4.6 billion. What's important to note is that this legislation has been renewed every year for almost 30 years without any controversy. And for the first time, we have extremists in the Republican supermajority who decided to hold this bill hostage and put our entire state's budget at risk doing so. And what they wanted out of it was to ban the IUD birth control. You all saw in the Senate last week that senators fought for several days to make sure that they were able to protect birth control for Missouri's Medicaid women. The bill moved over to the House this week, and we saw that same fight as well as one dealing with Planned Parenthood and where money is going along those lines. Very excited to say that the House Democrats were very instrumental in passing the Clean FRA bill, so we were able to sustain our state's budget and prevent these withholds. I think most importantly for us, the fact that we were here wasting taxpayer money for a special session when we could have done this during regular session is shameful. The fact that the majority party used 3 hours today to talk about a bill that is not going to cross the finish line in House Bill 2 by Representative Nick Schroer, all it was a political move. We know that redistricting is coming up and we're going to see Republicans primarying each other left and right. And what you saw today on House Bill 2 was simply talking points for folks to cut commercials when we were here to pass what was so vital for our state's budget and the federal reimbursement allowance. I am happy to say we were able to get that done with both sides of the aisle, but the fact that we were here at all just shows that the Republican majority cannot govern our state and that we need to be doing better. With that, we're happy to ask any questions.
You said that House Bill 2 is going to die and not going to go anywhere. Have you been confirmed by any? The senators seem to be quiet about that. Have you been confirmed that they're not coming back?
I mean, I will say you never know what the Senate is going to do, but what our understanding is that that bill will die today.
But House Bill 2 is clearly a signal of what's going to come in the regular session next year. How do you block it showing that, or how do you stop it with the vote that we're seeing today?
Well, as you saw, Representative Nick Schroer actually said on the floor today that he carried this very language during session and that it didn't cross the finish line then. This is a fight that comes up nearly every year, and so they weren't able to do it this time. I don't know why they'd be able to do it next time.
You don't think the politics that made this happen would push that issue to the front next year?
Well, you know, it's up to Republican leadership on whether or not they're going to negotiate with folks who are trying to hold things like our budget hostage. Obviously, I don't have control over the legislation that moves. Obviously, the Republican leadership was able to contain that a little bit today, so we'll see what happens.
There's a line that's in this new bill that says that it will not support court-efficient drugs or devices. It's not technically a clean FRA because that's in there. Does that language make you nervous? But it doesn't also list the drugs or devices. Do you know what they are? And then also, how do you feel that line is in the bill?
Yeah, so I want to say first and foremost thank you to the women senators, both Republican and Democrat, who were able to get out the original language of that bill to remove that language out. As you guys saw in the Senate, the original bill had a list of actually what those medications were. And that bill we are absolutely opposed to. We will not stand for banning IUDs, the Plan B, and all of those other medications that are listed in there. And that medication list also goes beyond an IUD and a lot of oral birth controls, particularly for patients who are cancer patients who are needing to take birth control. So that original bill that went through the Senate with the medications listed out, we were absolutely opposed to. And again, bipartisan women in the Senate were able to sit together and negotiate that out and come up with the line that you currently see in the FRA now. We're referring to it as a clean FRA because that language is already essentially law. We have had lawyers from both sides of the conversation look at it. You saw Missouri Right to Life came out against that bill. And so we are very, very happy with the version of the FRA that we have now.
Going back to the Planned Parenthood thing, there's been a lot of discussion about how this has been tried before, this defunding tactic, and it's going to be tried again. Where do you see that discussion going in the future? I mean, is this just going to be like an effort forever?
Well, I hope not. As Representative Donna Behringer spoke on the floor today, who is our fiscal review ranking member for the Democratic caucus, said, we'll see you in court. This fight that goes on all the time about funding for Planned Parenthood is always in the courts. And we still have House Bill 126 from a few years ago where that is still being litigated. And so I do imagine that this will continue to come up as long as the Republicans have the supermajority that they have. But will this actually go into effect, and will they actually be able to stop women from going to get cancer screenings and the treatment that they need to live happy and healthy lives? I don't think so.
So the redistricting is something that is almost certain to require a special session because of the time that it takes to get that done, and with filing starting at the end of February of next year. Is there anything else that the Democrats feel is essential to have in a special session later this year?
If we're going to be doing a special session, we would love to have a conversation around the unemployment situation that we have going on in our state. As you all know, we had many Missourians get laid off due to COVID. They received unemployment benefits and were overpaid, essentially, and now the governor is choosing to make them pay all of that money back. So we have a lot of folks that at no fault of their own lost jobs, received that money, and now the state of Missouri is saying you have to give it back to us. Some upwards of $10,000, $20,000. We've heard of some really large cases of folks having to pay that money back. The federal government said you don't have to, and Governor Parson refuses to listen and is making those people pay that money. If we were going to be here for a special session, that's what we would like to be talking about.
And that's what you've heard since the session, that's going on?
Yes, we are still being contacted. And in fact, at the end of session, you all may remember that representatives on the floor said that the Department of Labor was not going to do that and they were going to pause that. That is not true. We are still being contacted regularly of individuals who are being forced to pay that. We have some who even have liens on their property because they have not paid that money back. And I don't know if Representative, you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, I filed a resolution this week as well because I think that what we need to all be clear about is that the governor already has the authority to do all of that. We even passed an appropriation through the legislature that funded the state portion of this, which was the more controversial part to begin with. So the legislature's already said do it. The governor just hasn't. And so, but we'll talk about that more later. What I wanted to ask you was if you wanted to address the spending. Well, I'd just say that another thing that I think would be worth coming back sooner than waiting all the way until session is we are sitting on more dollars than Missouri has ever had. Some of that is additional revenue we actually had in the state, close to $1 billion. We've also got billions of dollars from the federal government that we're sitting on. And it's not doing us any good while we're sitting on it when we could be investing it into things that will grow our state and help the people in Missouri recover from COVID. That's what other states are doing now. We should be focused on that now as well.
Leader Quade, I have a question about the governor's role. Your counterpart, Senator Rizzo, said the governor should have been more involved to put pressure on Republicans. Do you agree? And what role did the governor? Is he here today? Has anybody seen it?
I 100% agree with Senator Rizzo on that point. As I said at the outset, the fact that we are in a special session to renew the federal reimbursement allowance that nobody has ever opposed, it has always been a bipartisan support to get this done. The fact that we even have to be here is shameful and a waste of money and a waste of time. And yes, he could have been involved in that conversation. You know, the House sent over a few versions to the Senate. The Senate just refused to have that conversation. And of course, if you control the governor's mansion and both chambers of the legislature, the fact that we have to have special sessions at all is ridiculous. And where is he today? I don't know. We haven't spoken to him. I hope that he gets this in time to sign it so that it actually can go into effect. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time.